welcome to Faith Focals. My name is Faith. Getting started on the stream. I think I may just be a minute late, which is good. I've kind of had a slow start today, so looking forward to this stream. I've got we're doing some housekeeping in our Bible reading today. So if you haven't been to the channel before, I want to invite you. Let's talk about truth. That's the goal of the stream. Let's talk about truth. My approach to that goal is I bring what I believe to be true. I come from a Christian background, Christian perspective, so I'm going to hinge at truth pretty heavily on the Bible. Starting to feel a bit warm, so I'll go ahead and take off my hoodie. But we're going to I'm going to start by reading some of the Bible. We've been going on a series through Genesis, and I hope you'll bring what you believe to be true and contribute either in the comments or in chat if you happen to catch the stream during while it's live. Either place is good. I look forward to having a conversation because I recognize we may not see eye to eye, and I think that would be an opportunity to learn. If we have a disagreement, then one of us might have the truth. It could be that neither of us have the truth, but certainly our perspectives would be broadened by getting to know the other person's perspective, getting to understand it well. That is something I would like to have practice in. So that is part of the reason I run this perspective, and to give you an opportunity, hopefully, to offer yours and for us to have a good discussion. But initially, we're starting with the Bible segment. Tell you what, I tend to have music for this talking segment. I've forgotten about that, so let me go ahead and get some of that started. Let's see, and I'm just checking the audio. Okay, there it is. I hear it. So hopefully you hear it. Let me know if you have any issues with the audio on streams. I'm still learning. I've been at the stream for more than a year, but I'm still learning. So I'll get the Bible segment that we're going to do open. Like I say, we're doing some housekeeping. The last stream that I did, we discussed, the past couple of weeks, we've been discussing the tragedy of Sodom, the destruction of Sodom, how God judged that city in the book of Genesis for its sin, and dealt with the question last week of why is it that God judges some sins like Sodom, but doesn't judge other sins like, say, sin that Abraham committed. I used the example of Hagar. We recognize now, I think it's pretty well understood now, especially in the West, that slavery doesn't seem to be something that would be honoring to God. Polygamy isn't something that's honoring to God. So what does God do with the fact that Abraham had a slave who was the mother of one of his sons, his first son, Ishmael? So I dealt with that in the last stream. If you're interested, you can check out the video on demand for the last stream. Today we're moving on, but we're not quite moving on from Sodom, because Sodom was a mess. We've got some more cleanup to do. In fact, humanity is a mess. We've got, from Sodom, there was the man Lot, Abraham's nephew. The Bible calls Lot a righteous man, and yet we find that Lot did have his faults. When God was destroying Sodom and Gomorrah, he sent a couple messengers, a couple angels to the city to rescue Lot before he judged the city, rescue him for the sake of God's friend Abraham. But Lot was fully on board with what the angels were saying. The city was wicked. He agreed with that. The city was going to be destroyed. He understood that. He told his sons-in-law, we got to get out of here. The sons-in-law thought he was joking. So they ridiculed Lot. So it was Lot and his family getting ready to leave the city. And that was the evening. The next morning, time to go, Lot. Time to leave before God destroys the city. And Lot lingers. He hesitates. He's kind of attached to the place, maybe to his sons-in-law. doesn't want to leave his property, maybe. The Bible doesn't really say what was on Lot's mind, but he lingers, and so he basically has to get dragged out of the city. The angels have to drag him, his wife, his daughters out of the city to save their lives. So we do recognize that Lot seems to have something. Lot's not perfect. Let's just say Lot's human like the rest of us. Of course, Lot's uncle, Abraham, is also human. We're going to see Abraham's sin in the next chapter. I'm going to try to wrap up Genesis chapter 19 and get through Genesis chapter 20 today. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to start in Genesis 19:27. Abraham and God had a meeting the day before. God let Abraham know that God was intending to judge the city of Sodom, and Abraham said, Abraham said, God, could I just ask you, please, if there were 50 righteous people in this city, would you destroy the whole city with those 50 righteous people? Would you wipe out the 50 righteous people with the wicked? That doesn't seem like who you are to me. Of course, he put it more strongly than that. Far be it from my Lord to do such a thing. I think I may as well go ahead and have a peek back. It's just the next chapter back. So, let me see. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? So Abraham has a moment of course, emotionality. His nephew Lot does live in that city. And if there were 50 righteous souls in the city, wouldn't it be just to be merciful to save those 50 righteous souls in the city? And God agrees. If there were 50 righteous souls in the city, then yes, I promise to save the city. Abraham says, well, would it make a difference if there were 45 righteous souls? Would 5 souls really make a difference? Wouldn't you save the city for 45 souls? And God says, yes, I would save the city for 45 souls. So Abraham kind of talks God down. Not that God needed talking down. I think the Bible proves that God is a merciful God at heart. Of course, he's also just, which is why the city of Sodom needed to be judged in the first place. But it's God's mercy, I think, that allows, say, Abraham, even though Abraham is sinful, that allows Lot, even though Lot is sinful, to exist, even though they have both definitely had grievous flaws. We're going to see the outcome of Lot's decisions, and we're going to see the flawed decision. Flawed is kind of a light word. The sinful decisions of Abraham. Of course, when we sin, we tend to find a reason for that sin. We tend to justify the sin when it's ours, and we don't tend to extend that same benefit to other people who sin around us. So I think justly, we would not have the right to justify ourselves either. Where did that sentence start? Sometimes I lose my train of thought, and I had a good dinner tonight, so am I out of frame? Tell you what, I'm going to move this camera. Excuse me, getting good and distracted. I apologize. There we go. So, anyway, Abraham and Lot are definitely not perfect, but God is merciful. So Abraham, I think God was giving the opportunity to Abraham to have that discussion with him, to talk about under what circumstances would God save the city of Sodom. And it wound up being pretty light circumstances. If there were only 10 righteous people in the city, God promised that he would save the city of Sodom. And it turns out that the Bible calls Lot righteous, so we know that Lot is righteous. But Lot's sons-in-law didn't agree to leave the city. They thought Lot was joking, so they got judged with the city. Lot's wife turned around and looked back at the city when they were not safe yet, and so she turned into a pillar of salt. Given God's judgment of the city, she fell to the judgment of the city. And Lot and his daughters made it to this little town called Zoar. So I was trying to look up a map so that we could have some insight into what's going on here. in the past, I've been able to get the map isolated where we can see it by itself, but I was not able to do that this time, so we're going to see it on the Google search page here. So hopefully you can see over here. This is the map, kind of from the time of Abraham. So these are some of the locations that we've already. This one we haven't heard about yet in Abraham's story, but and this one I don't think we've heard about that one yet. I think that one comes. We do know that Abraham originally started in Haran. And then when God told him to move to the land of Canaan, Abraham stopped at Bethel and made an altar. This one I think is miswritten. It's the consonants that tend to be written. So I'm not sure how much of an expert I can claim to be on that spelling, how much criticism I can give on that. But Abraham stopped at Bethel, means house of God. I think it got that name later on, but during the time of Abraham, he made an altar there. And then there was a famine, so Abraham went all the way down to Egypt. That is in Genesis 12. Actually, that's going to be relevant in a bit. Then after Egypt, I'm having a deja vu moment. We'll talk about that. But after Egypt, he went back up to Bethel, and he again, the Bible says he called on the name of the Lord. We had a stream where I looked into that, what that phrase means. And then Abraham moved down to Hebron. He lived here. He had found a friend named Mamre, made a friend named Mamre, and Mamre was an Amorite. And so Abraham was living over by the oaks of Mamre. So apparently Mamre had these oaks on his land, or some versions of the Bible say terebinths. So I don't know if that's a separate tree, but Abraham was living near these trees. He was living in his tents and apparently had permission to be there on his friend Mamre's property. Meanwhile, we have found in Genesis chapter 14, some nations out beyond this region came and attacked the city of Sodom, Gomorrah, Zoar, and two others, Adamah and Zeboim. Let me go ahead and look that up, because I think that may give us some context for where we're coming from, kind of where we're going in this in today's stream. So this is when the nations, there were four nations, Shinar, Elasar, Elam, and Goyim. These nations attacked Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Zoar. So there were these 5 cities. We only see 3 here on the map. Sodom and Gomorrah are pretty famous. Their names are often said in a pair, like the two of them together, a pair, in the Bible. Not the fruit, the couple. So Sodom and Gomorrah are often spoken of together. And we found earlier in our chapter, it's not switching over. There we go. Earlier in today's section of scripture, the angels are dragging Lot out of Sodom. You've got to get out of here. You've got to escape. They say, escape for your life. Do not look or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the hills, lest you be swept away. And Lot said, Oh no, my lords, behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life. But I cannot escape to the hills, lest the disaster overtake me and I die. I think he was afraid he and his family would not be able to outrun God's judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah. Behold, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my life will be saved. So he, one of the angels, one of these messengers, said to him, Behold, I grant you this favor also, that I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Escape there quickly, for I can do nothing till you arrive there. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar, which means little, apparently, according to the footnote. So maybe that's why in Genesis chapter 14 it says that the 4 nations attacked these cities, including the king of Bela, that is Zoar, because Zoar didn't get its name until after this incident where Lot's pointing out the small size of the city. So Lot's saying, listen, I know you intend to destroy all of these cities. All of these cities are wicked. But if you would just save this one city, there are so few people in it. Surely what does it matter so much that these few people escape? And of course, in the spirit that we saw, Ruby Parish, I'm seeing some I'm seeing some similar text in the stream yesterday. I'm assuming that text that does not look like English or like a foreign language text with strange capitalization and punctuation is a bot. So I'm going to treat you like a bot. I'm going to go ahead and ban you from the stream. So this is a warning to anyone who watches the stream or watches the VODs. My goal is to allow people who come on the stream to be free to say what they believe in, free to express themselves. However, I also want to be aware of issues like this. So we're going to report that to YouTube because I don't think they like bots. That's going to remove Ruby Parish from the stream, so YouTube can deal with that as YouTube will, can arbitrate that. Maybe they'd be able to tell better than I can whether that was a bot or not on the stream. But so just so you know my goal here, I do kind of want to express my underlying motives for the stream. As I said, I want to have a conversation even if we disagree. I do believe that it is better that we communicate than that we keep silent for the purpose of peace. Ideally, we would be peaceful. Ideally, any disagreement that we have would be expressed peacefully. That's my hope. That is what I want to practice on the stream. Had a little pop-up there to remove one of those programs that I've got that sometimes says it needs to update, so we'll deal with that later. But got distracted, but here I'll try to get back on subject. So I want, even if we disagree, even if maybe you express yourself in a way that I don't care for, I want to give you the grace to say what you want to say, to express yourself fully. And so that I am still learning what that means as far as moderating the stream. So I want to get that nailed down so that I can be able to instruct others who come and mod the stream later on that I want us to be as flexible as possible, but also I don't want harmful communication, bots. I don't know what the point of a bot that throws random text on the stream is, but certainly if there's any harm to it, I'm not interested in that. So let me just say this. Here's the takeaway. If you would like to speak in comments or in chat, please make sure that your speech is at least intelligible, that I can at least tell it's a human who is doing the speaking, because I'm thinking I'm going to be, especially with bots, especially with entities that I don't believe have a soul, then I am going to take a hard line on, because bots don't have freedom of speech. So we'll get back on topic. Where were we? So they set him outside the city. They said, escape to the hills. Lot said, there's this little town. Can't you just spare this little town so that I and my family can escape? And in the spirit in which God had that conversation with Abraham, where God's saying, even if there were 10 people in Sodom, I would spare it. Even if there were 10 righteous people in Sodom, I would spare that city. So this angel is making a decision. Yes, we'll spare Zoar. It is a little town. There will be at least one righteous person in the city. This isn't spelled out. Lot doesn't have this reasoning, but we do know from later in the Bible that Lot is considered a righteous man. And so I think the same principle applies, because there is a righteous man going to be in this little town, then they exercise mercy on behalf of this little town. So Zoar, and I keep seeing, when it comes to Sodom and Gomorrah, especially the city of Sodom, there are lots of maps that I see that have a question mark. For instance, let me go ahead and pull this one up since I see it. So here's another one. Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim. But we know where Zoar is, apparently, according to this map. So I don't know what the context is here, but we can see this is Mamre, which is where Abraham lived, also called Hebron, which is here on my map. See, Mamre, Hebron. So, and was that the map that I was looking at? This one's good enough, I think. This one has a few extra cities on it, so we'll go to the simpler one. So don't take these to be hard and fast locations. This is the educated guess based on archaeologists who have studied the region. So we have Lot was going to go to Zoar. We'll scroll down here. The sun had risen on the earth when Lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven. Let me go ahead and mention this. The angel responded to Lot. He said to him, "Behold, I grant you this favor also, that I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Escape there quickly, for I can do nothing till you arrive there." Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. Okay, I read that verse. I think it's interesting that there's an implication here. Lot, we're waiting on you. You've got to get into that city. As soon as you get into that city, then it starts. We're not going to start before you get into that city, but please hurry. Because these cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, definitely were under the judgment of God. This was something that the Lord in his justice decided needed to be done with these cities. I think if Lot had tried to play up the mercy that the angels were extending to him, saying, well, no, I'm going to stay here. I want to linger in Sodom anyway. I'm just going to stay put. Then he would not have been the righteous man that we see making his escape from the city. It's because he's obeying the Lord that we can tell that he's a righteous man. His heart is set on the standards of God. He was opposed to the wickedness of the city when the men of Sodom were demonstrating that wickedness. So I don't think Lot could have used this to the Lord's disadvantage, but certainly he made the right decision to hurry to Zoar. And unfortunately, his wife, as I've said, did not hurry quite the same. They reached the city. Lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire, and he overthrew those cities in the valley and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. So I'm understanding that going into the city, they're just there. She turns back, and that is how close the judgment was, that it overtakes her, and Lot only escapes because he does not look back, him and his daughters. So now we get to where I wanted to start. And Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. This is where he had that conversation with God. And he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the valley. And he looked, and behold, the smoke of the land went up like the smoke of a furnace. So it was that when God destroyed the cities of the valley, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had lived. So I want to make a quick note here. I found this passage, let's see, Deuteronomy 9, I think it's verse 3. No, it's in the neighborhood. Just a moment. Okay, so this passage that I'm looking for, yeah, here it is. This passage is God talking to the nation of Israel. God is about to leave Israel out of slavery. God had told Abraham that his descendants would be slaves in a foreign land, and then he would bring them back to the land where Abraham now lived. So this is when God is about to bring the nation of Israel, Abraham's descendants, to this land where their forefather Abraham lived. And he's saying, essentially he tells them, if you obey the law that I have given you, you will be blessed. If you disobey the law, if you turn to other gods and worship them, then you will be cursed. And an example of this curse, he says, and the next generation, your children who rise up after you, and the foreign who comes from a far land will say, when they see the afflictions of that land and the sicknesses with which the Lord has made it sick, the whole land burned out with brimstone and salt, nothing sown and nothing growing, where no plant can sprout, an overthrow like that of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim, which the Lord overthrew in his anger and wrath. All the nations will say, why has the Lord done thus to this land? What caused the heat of this great anger? Then the people will say, it is because they abandoned the covenant of the Lord, the God of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them out of the land of Egypt, and went and served other gods and worshipped them. gods whom they had not known and whom he had not allotted to them. So that's where we'll stop with that. But interestingly, it shows the same 4 cities that were alongside Bela or Zoar in that battle when the kings from the other nations came to attack these cities. All of those cities are in this verse except for Zoar. So I just think that's interesting. It kind of gives us some detail, because in Genesis 19 it doesn't spell out the other cities that were judged. We might be able to guess maybe that it would be the same 5 cities that God had that Abraham had basically rescued in the battle in Genesis chapter 14. We covered that one earlier. But we don't see that spelled out in Genesis 19 here. We do see that spelled out later on by Moses, who we understand to be actually the author of the book of Genesis as we have it in the Bible. As we have it based on the original Hebrew version of what we have in the Bible would have been. And I qualify that because that text would be so ancient that we no longer have that text. We don't have anything that appears to be that text. We don't have fragments of that text. So it's either destroyed or still lost to undiscovered archaeology. However, we do have copies of that text that were handwritten. And so those copies, because there are so many of them available and because the copyists were careful, even if there are differences in those copies, seeing as many of them as we have all together, we can identify what the original text that Moses himself wrote down would have said. And then we have these different translations. For instance, I'm looking at this in the ESV. I tend to read this in the King James Version. ESV means English Standard Version. So these are different. When you get a word in one language, there may be different similar words that you can use in the separate language to relate what's said. Sometimes they color a sentence differently depending on which word you choose. So the benefit is we have all of these different versions that then we can compare to one another also and get a sense of what the original document meant, which is why I like to use this website. The site, if you're interested in checking it out, is called blueletterbible.org. So Blue Letter Bible you see up here. Or you can also type in BLB, so blb.org, and get to the same site. So I like the fact that it does allow us to see these verses in all the different versions that they're available in. I'm not sure if this is an exhaustive list, but there's certainly a lot here. So there's a lot of room to make comparisons. And then if you want to see what the verse would have meant in Hebrew, then it takes us to the Masoretic text that would have been an ancient text written in Hebrew. So we can kind of get a better idea of exactly which Hebrew version of the word was actually used in a verse that would be closer to the original. And a version that would be closer to the original. Let's see. So now we're getting into the meat of what we wanted to discuss. So 19 and 20. We're going to get that taken care of, get that out of the way. And then Genesis 21, we'll start to have something more uplifting. We're going through a continuation of a dark section here. Let's see. So we read this verse, I think. God destroyed the cities of the valley, but remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of them. Now Lot went up out of Zoar and lived in the hills with his 2 daughters, for he was afraid to live in Zoar. Maybe he was seeing similar wickedness in the city of Zoar and seeing that, well, if it weren't that God had been merciful for Zoar, they would have been judged too. How long is that going to last? So he's a bit anxious about that. So he lived in a cave with his 2 daughters. So apparently when he was in Sodom, he had enough there to live a comfortable life. Because like I say, he lingered when the angels tried to extricate him and his family, tried to rescue them from the city. But now everything he owns has been burned up. All he's got is the clothes on his back and his 2 daughters. And now they're living in a cave. So Lot, it appears, has, thankfully he's chosen to leave Zoar. But that puts him in kind of a survival situation. He doesn't have resources with him to to survive on any more than he could have carried. Maybe over the night that he knew the city was going to be destroyed, he could have made preparations, but I don't know how great the preparations would have been, given that he wanted to stay in Sodom. But it's possible he was able to carry some resources, but now he's kind of in a desperate situation, survival scenario, doing his best to continue living in this cave with his daughters. And the firstborn daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to come into us after all the manner of all the earth." So as I said, he had some sons-in-law. These were actually not married to his daughters in the sense that we understand it. These were engaged to his daughters, betrothed to his daughters. So arrangements would have been made that the daughters were going to marry these young men. Apparently, Lot liked them enough. This righteous man, Lot, liked them enough, even though they were part of the city of Sodom, the society of Sodom. They were probably the cream of the crop of Sodom, where these two men, at least he'd consider having these to be sons-in-law. But they've been judged with the city of Sodom. They've been burnt up in the fire and brimstone. And so this is probably a painful experience for the daughters, I imagine. They're intended to have been destroyed. So I don't know what it is about this reasoning of the firstborn. Exactly what angle is she taking? Is she, because it seems unreasonable to say, we left Sodom, we left Zoar, those were the only two cities in the whole earth. There's no other man for us. But I can definitely recognize the sense of the plan is not for us to marry, perhaps. God's not going to give us a man to marry, to have a future generation with. So definitely a lot of young ladies feel like that, and I can relate to that thought process. But in that case, my goal would be, because I am still single, by the way, not a hint, just giving you some context for where I am. My goal would be that if God did not intend for me to be married, then the Bible says that singleness is a blessing because it leaves us free to serve the Lord. Whereas being married, now we're responsible to our husband. For us women, for a man, he would be responsible to take care of his wife. They would eventually have children, and those are responsibilities. Those would be cares that would burden them and prevent them from being able to fully serve the Lord, to focus on service to the Lord as fully as they might. And certainly, hello, Patrick. Yeah, I recognize you used that username before, so good to see you. So I'm glad that at this point, apparently God has not chosen for me to be married. I trust that he is choosing the best thing for me. Probably he wants me to focus on running this live stream, where I intend to serve him by expressing what I believe to be true, which would be the Bible. I find that to be very important. I think that the way that humanity gets to be right with God, gets to experience God's mercy, can be found in the Bible. So this would be a way that I would serve God, and it's a benefit that I can focus on that instead of, say, making sure my husband is happy or making sure that my children are cared for, that kind of thing. That's not a concern that I have to worry about. But that's not the way these girls are thinking, unfortunately. They are exhibiting, I'll go ahead and preface by saying they're exhibiting the same kind of behavior that we saw in Sodom. So as wicked as Sodom was, that appears to have kind of leached into the minds of these young women. Even though their father Lot is said to be a righteous man in the Bible, that doesn't mean his daughters are necessarily righteous. They kind of benefit from his righteousness and that they stay with him. And so God is not judging them like he judged the cities of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim. So this firstborn's great idea Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him that we may preserve offspring from our father. So definitely a horrible idea. But they go through with it. They made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she arose. So this was not his sin. He is not culpable for this sin. This is the choice of the daughter. The next day the firstborn said to the younger, Behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine also. Then you go and lie with him, that we may preserve offspring from our father. Got banned on Roblox for saying cool, I see, Patrick. I wonder what that's about. That seems like an odd reason to get banned. I'm not I wouldn't be surprised with algorithms and things like that the computer would make a mistake, but that just seems weird. So definitely not doubting you. I get the sense that you're kind of you're kind of saying that's weird, and I agree with you there. Did that just happen? Was that were you playing it just as the stream got started? Sorry to hear that. So they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Banned for 3 days. Okay. So I'm glad that it's a temporary ban. Doesn't seem like something that that one should be banned for. So I'm sorry to hear that it if it's the word cool, then I wouldn't think that would be just necessarily. Probably, like I say, the artificial intelligence or whatever's behind the moderation, unfortunately. I guess the only thing that I can think, and I think of you more better than this, but if you're saying the wrong thing is cool, then I could see why that would be the case. But I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt there too, that I'm hoping that you're not I was beamed? What is beamed? Let's see. Yeah, I think I've read 1935, so I'll skip that one. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. The firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. That's a significant nation in the history of Israel. The younger also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites to this day. Oh, so it wasn't Roblox. Someone else got me banned. Okay. So, good that... Okay. I'll check it in a bit, Patrick. Gotta load the program up. All right, so I don't have a lot more information based on what I've seen, but I'm not going to click anything while I'm on stream. Okay, I was beamed 1 minute ago. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you're having trouble on Roblox, Patrick, and sounds like someone's got an issue with you. Hope that that all of that resolves itself and turns out okay. So, sorry to hear that you're having a bad time on that platform for 3 days. It would hopefully Roblox gets it figured out. What's right, what's wrong, and gets that sorted out appropriately. Maybe you wouldn't have to face the negative consequences of that for as long as 3 days. I don't know how their system works. So we have this story. I've kind of rushed through it because it's definitely a sordid story, definitely a nasty story. These daughters are not having relations in the way that God created humanity to have relations with one another. When God created Adam and Eve, the Bible tell you what, let me go ahead and go back there and get the actual wording for this. Genesis chapter 2, I think, and it would be towards the end of the chapter. It says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." This was the first man, the first woman on earth, as I'm sure many people know. That's what the Bible teaches. Adam and Eve, first man, first woman. So they didn't have a pastor. No one was there to unite them in marriage, so to speak. They didn't have a wedding. God put Adam with Eve, and they were clearly intended for each other. And so their example is our example. So when Adam and Eve became united in this married relationship, it was I'm trying to remember what the word is that's used for that, and it's slipping my brain right now. But basically, it was certified. It was closed by the fact that they later on bore a son, Cain, by the act that it took to allow Eve to have that son. That was what determined, okay, these two are married. So when we have a physical relationship with someone, the Bible essentially teaches that physical relationship closes the deal. Essentially, before God, we're married when we have that physical relationship. So in the law of Israel later on, if a man and a woman who were not married had a physical relationship with with one another, if they had sexual immorality, the Bible calls it, before marriage, the Bible said the man must marry that woman. There's no choice to it. The man must marry that woman. So that is further confirmation that yes, God considers this physical act to be the act that seals the deal as far as marriage is concerned. The man is now united with that woman. They are one flesh. They are essentially married. And so for these girls to treat their father this way, it is abuse. Definitely, we recognize that this is not beneficial. And beneficial is too light a way to say it. There is no moral good in this kind of behavior. But they had been so soaked in the society of Sodom that they were justifying to themselves, oh, God's not going to give us husbands. There's no way. There's no man in all the earth for us. Either they were thinking there's no way we're going to find a man for us in another city. Maybe they were thinking everyone's going to hear that we came from Sodom and no one's going to want to marry us. Or maybe they were just thinking they were cursed by God and they could get around it by abusing their father. But clearly this is evil behavior. I think that's common sense. But again, they had come from a city that had made this common. And so while Lot did not cause this, was not involved in this morally, he had not made any sinful decision in this passage in chapter 19. I think it had been building up based on his decisions to live in the region of Sodom. So let's go to, he moved to Sodom in Genesis chapter 13. So he had large flocks. His uncle Abram at this time had large flocks. Their herdsmen were fighting amongst each other for grazing land for the flocks, and they agreed for peace. Then we've got to separate, and Lot chose the region of the Jordan Valley around Sodom and Gomorrah. I don't see the choice to move there necessarily as the evil if he's taking care of his family by putting his flocks in a place, his herds in a place where they can graze. I don't see evil in that. It's good that he's providing for his family and for his animals and everything. By the way, I'm appealing my ban right now. That's great, Patrick. So I hope that goes well. It's good that Lot is taking care of his family and his responsibilities, but somewhere between here And Genesis chapter 19, he stops raising flocks outside of the city of Sodom, and he goes and lives inside the city of Sodom. And here in Genesis chapter 13, I have some commentary on, let's see. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. So there was already this reputation in Sodom for wickedness. So ideally Lot would have kept his distance from the city, but apparently he did not. Apparently he gradually moved closer into the city and became more attached to the city, was even willing to marry his daughters to the men of this wicked city. And it turns out that when God judged the city, apparently Lot was the only righteous man in that city. And even he was wavering, as far as we can tell from Genesis chapter 19. So Lot makes this decision not to prioritize his integrity by staying away from the city. He makes a decision to compromise, and that leads to one, his daughters mistreating them. I don't think that Lot is culpable for their decision. I don't think he's to blame for their decision. I don't think you can say that God was punishing Lot. Patrick, maybe they're trying to avoid people getting away with doing things wrong with that limitation, but it's a shame if that turns out to mean you're getting punished for something it wasn't reasonable for you to be punished for. So I'll tie that in, that Roblox would not punish you for doing something that was not wrong. I don't think we can say that Lot was punished for his choice to be in Sodom. I don't think his daughter's treatment of him was punishment. However, I do think that Lot not holding on to his integrity firmly, allowing himself to make compromises with the city, put him in a position where his daughters were corrupted, and led to this situation. And later on, the sons of Lot's daughters, Moab and Ben-Ami, gave rise to nations. Their descendants became nations. So that's the last we hear about Lot in the Bible, as far as what Lot was doing. The Bible sometimes mentions him, but that is long after Lot's life. So we don't know what happened to Lot after this incident. We can guess that Lot finally wound up doing okay, because his grandchildren, well, I'll just stick with grandchildren. They grew up, they became nations. So apparently the family survived, did okay. That's the last we understand about Lot. But it says from there, Abraham journeyed toward the territory of the Negeb, so that's the desert, southern desert, had relations with his slave Hagar, and she was bearing his son Ishmael while she was carrying Ishmael before his birth. She started to elevate herself in her own pride, started to elevate herself above Abram's, at the time his name was Abram, above his wife Sarai. And Sarai, of course, didn't like that. It was her idea that Abram would have this relation so that he could have the son that God promised him, but she didn't intend to be demeaned for this decision. So she started treating Hagar harshly, and Hagar finally had enough, and she ran away to this region between Kadesh and Shur. So I'm thinking, heading back to Egypt. That's where she came from. Back when Abram was in Egypt, he acquired slaves, and I think she was one of the slaves that he acquired. So she ran away to this region. And then God told her to go back, and she went back to Abram, and now he has his son Ishmael, who is alive at this time that Abram is making this move. So we found out in the previous chapter, after God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, Abram looked out over the plains was able to see the smoke rising from Sodom and Gomorrah, I can only imagine how his heart feels. He has no idea what's happened to his nephew Lot. I imagine at that moment he could only assume that his nephew Lot had died in the city. This is the worst day. You're because of the Roblox issue. Sorry to hear that, Patrick. Yeah, on the one hand, it's good that there are other games out there, but definitely it's not fun to have someone try to have you banned. So, sorry to hear that. So, Abraham, actually, his name was Abraham at the time of the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah, looking out, sees the smoke. I imagine, considering the potential death of his nephew, Lot, of course, which wasn't true, but Abraham probably didn't know that in a moment. Seeing the destruction of the whole valley that these cities had lived in, had existed in, to put it lightly, property values had diminished in the region. So I'm imagining Abraham just didn't have the heart to remain in that region. So we look at our map of where he was. He would have been in Hebron, would have been looking out across the Dead Sea probably at these three cities. Would have seen the smoke rising from this region. And so he heads in the opposite direction to Gerar. This region of Gerar. He sojourned in Gerar, lived in his tents, wandering around in that region. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, "She is my sister." And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. So we've seen this movie before. Back in Genesis chapter 12, when Abraham went to Egypt during the famine, he also at that time said to Sarai, what's her name at that time, would please say that you're my sister, because they're going to kill me to get to you because you're just so lovely. They're going to want you for their wife. They're going to kill me. Instead of saying you're my wife, say you're my sister. That way there's no threat on my life. And she agreed to that. So they're trying the same thing again. It didn't turn out well for Abraham in Egypt when the Egyptian Pharaoh, who took Sarah to be his wife, or at least a part of his family. I don't know if they had harems or concubines or that kind of thing at that time, but it was not a good situation for Sarah. The fact that she continued the ruse as long as she did suggests how much she loved Abraham, even though Abraham allowed this fear that he was feeling to get the better of him. I believe he loved Sarah very much, but he wasn't showing it in that situation or in this situation. So Pharaoh took Sarah to be part of his household, and then he found out that God was afflicting his family because of the situation, because God had promised to bless Abraham. God had promised Abraham his blessing and his curse on anyone who would not bless Abraham. So here it is. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And I believe that carries down to when Abram and Sarai were in Egypt. Let's see. The Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And so Pharaoh gets the idea. You've been lying to me. You did not tell me she was your wife. You guys get out of here. And so Pharaoh gave men orders concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. So that did not turn out well the first time, but he's continuing on this practice, continuing this lie with Sarah. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. So again, some king, and so even then, someone thinks that Abraham recognizes she's beautiful. Apparently Abimelech, the king, thinks that she's beautiful, and Abimelech gets fooled by this lie that Sarah and Abraham are telling to protect Abraham. But this is different. This situation is different. because when Sarah went and Abraham were in Egypt and this incident happened, Sarah was barren. Sarah could not bear children. So the Bible doesn't give us detail on what it was like in Pharaoh's house or anything, but this time, God in Genesis chapter 18 promised Abraham, I will come back in 1 year, and I will give you a son, the son that God had promised Abraham, the son that Abraham was to name Isaac. Ishmael was not the promised son, it was Isaac that was the promised son. God has not yet come back and given Abraham that son Isaac. It's still within that year. So now Abimelech takes Sarah into his household. If there is nothing, if nothing stops him, if things go the natural way, she's going to have the son that God promised, but there would be no way to verify that Abraham was the father. There would be questions. So God gets involved, I think, for this reason. He didn't get involved in Egypt when she was in Pharaoh's house except to afflict Pharaoh's family with plagues, but he gets a bit more direct this time. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, Behold, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. Now Abimelech had not approached her. So he said, Lord, will you kill an innocent people? Did he not himself say to me, she is my sister? And she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands I have done this. Then God said to him in the dream, Yes, I know that you have done this in the integrity of your heart, and it was I who kept you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not let you touch her. Now then return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, so that he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not return her, know that you shall surely die, you and all who are yours. So again, just like the angel said to Lot, run, go, and Lot saying, let me go to Zoar, and the angel says, okay, we won't be able to do anything until you get to Zoar, essentially. Lot then had a choice whether he was going to go to Zoar with that information or not. He makes the right choice. I don't think making the wrong choice would have saved anybody, but he makes the right choice based on the fact that he is actually a righteous man. And so that shows Lot's integrity. So likewise, Abimelech has this choice now. God is saying, I held you back up to this point. Now you show me that you are the man of integrity that you say you are. So Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and told them all these things, and the men were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham. So I want to stop here before we continue, because we see where this is going. I wanted to just stop for a moment and mention that this is the first time in the Bible that we see the word prophet. And in the Bible, the word prophet is very important. There were several people that God sent to speak to his people, the nation of Israel, who were supposed to have his words. Israel was to obey the prophets because they were obeying God in that sense. Israel did not have a tendency to do that, unfortunately. So this is the first time that we see a prophet. Apparently Abraham was a prophet. And I looked at what this word means in the Hebrew. Like I mentioned, one of the reasons why I like this website. Let's see. I passed it. Prophet, Nabi. So spokesman, speaker, prophet. So this is God saying Abraham is my spokesman, basically. Which is interesting because on the one hand, we've never seen Abraham speaking for God. I think there's one passage that's crossing my mind. Let me just check. But in this case, Abraham met a priest of God named Melchizedek. He gave, this was after Abraham had fought the 4 kings and won by God's grace. Melchizedek blessed Abraham and said, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. Sometimes these footnotes pop up when you don't want them to. And blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And Abram gave him 1/10 of everything. So then the king of Sodom says, please take the spoil. Give me the person, but take the goods for yourself. I'll take my people back, but you can have the spoils for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to the Lord, God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I would not take a thread or a sandal strap or anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. I will take nothing but what the young men have eaten, and the share of the men who went with me. Let my friends, essentially, see Mamre, one of his friends, take their share. So in this case, maybe one could say that he's speaking for God. I don't see him saying that he's got a message from God here, or that he's trying to convey who God is in any way. He is expressing his loyalty to God. He is speaking for himself about his loyalty to God and his choice not to take wealth from this wicked king. So that is the only thing that I could think of that might be an alternative to what I'm saying. So far, I don't see Abraham being a spokesman for God. However, in Genesis chapter 18, when God is letting Abraham know that he's about to judge the city of Sodom, let's see, it's over here. The Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I have chosen him, that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring Abraham what he has promised him. So I think this is the first place where we kind of see Abraham taking on his role as a spokesman for God. And in this sense, Abraham is speaking to his children, to his offspring, to his household. So that would be any herdsmen, any workers under him, any slaves that Abraham might have had under him, those who were depending on Abraham for their support. And Abraham, by encouraging these people to follow the Lord, was being a spokesman within his center of influence. And that kind of gets into a thought that I've had for a while, because I am of the age where I'm kind of between the millennial generation and the generation that comes before that, whatever we call that generation. I think maybe Gen Y. No, I think that's a millennial generation. So Gen X. So I kind of claim to be a millennial because it suggests that I'm younger, but I'm right on the edge. Depending on which sources you look at, I could be millennial or I could not. And as someone of the millennial generation, the internet grew up shortly after I was old enough to be aware of my surroundings, aware of what was going on. I think I was around between 10 and 12 years old when I discovered what the internet was and started having access to it and dabbling on that. And of course, have grown up with the internet ever since. YouTube, I'm older than YouTube, so maybe that makes me old. This platform and Facebook and all these social media platforms give us this extended reach where we can influence hundreds, thousands, millions, some of us, of other people. And so I think it kind of distorts the way that we understand influence, the way that we understand our effect on society. God has made Abraham his spokesman, but Abraham, compared to us, has a relatively small pool of people that he is influencing. Now, granted, that pool is at least 318 people strong, according to Genesis 14, when he had a small army doing guerrilla warfare against these 4 kings that attacked Sodom and carried away Lot as their prisoner. So Abraham still had a considerable influence, but apparently, according to that verse where God is saying Abraham is going to lead his children, I believe that's where Abraham began to be God's spokesman, and it was to his family. So I think that suggests that the people in our immediate circles, especially our family, but I would suggest this even extends to our friends, we are either speaking on behalf of or against God to our friends. And I would suggest, even if we speak in a way that suggests that God doesn't exist, even if we speak neutrally, I would not say that that makes us neutral. As a Christian, I look at the world, I see it created by God. I take joy in the good that the world presents. And yet there are times when I look at the world in what's known in the Bible as a worldly way, a carnal way, a materialistic way, a way that excludes God from the picture. And so there may be a time when I'm not even talking about God, but if I'm thinking of him, if I'm glad for what he's given, for his provision, I would suggest that that kind of conversation is to his glory, is me speaking as his spokeswoman. However, if I'm looking at society or the world around me, my environment, and forgetting God, if he's excluded from the picture, then that would be a case where I'm not God's spokesman. In fact, I'm speaking against him as if I were an enemy of God, because that is the state of my heart. And that, I think, is why we need rescue. Because the Bible teaches that every person has sinned against God, and the Bible teaches, I'm thinking of Matthew, when Jesus said, hated someone, then you have committed murder against them in your heart. If you have looked at a woman with lust, you have committed adultery with her in your heart. So even the thoughts of our heart are sins, if they are opposed to God's moral standard. So those count either for or against us also. We do see that Abraham was pretty dedicated to God, except even in this passage with Abimelech, it seems like Abraham has forgotten God for the moment. He isn't considering that God could save him if someone wanted to kill him. Why would God have Abraham killed if he's going to give Abraham his son Isaac, who God has promised him? Especially since he said Abraham is going to raise his children after me. How could Abraham die if Abraham still has to raise Isaac to follow God? In this case, Abimelech winds up being more godly than Abraham, because he's had this encounter with God. God is foremost in his mind, and I think Abimelech is acting ironically in fear of God, and I'll show why it's ironic in a moment. So then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? And how have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? You have done to me things that ought not to be done." And I think it's interesting here, the king of a nation that doesn't follow God, he has a better understanding of what is right and what is wrong than apparently Abraham does, because Abraham's been blinded by his fear of this nation that doesn't follow God. And Abimelech said to Abraham, "What did you see that you did this thing?" He's giving Abraham the benefit of the doubt. You got to have a reason for doing this, right? Abraham said, "I did it because I thought there is no fear of God at all in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, though not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife." So this is a strange situation. Definitely, we just got out of a passage where Lot's daughters abused him. We find out in this passage that Sarah is the half-sister of Abraham. That apparently has not been important enough in Scripture up until this point. God didn't see, it's not that God didn't see that. God is aware of all things, and understanding that today, clearly God in the law to Israel has said, that would be wrong. That's incest is not permissible in the Bible. We do see earlier in the Bible, Adam and Eve had their sons Cain, Abel, Seth, and they also had daughters. The Bible doesn't name their daughters, but it does say that Adam had daughters. And my understanding is that Cain and Abel had no one else. Cain, I don't know that Abel married. Based on what we see, he was killed probably before he was able to marry. But we see that Cain and Seth had no choice except to marry their sister. And that would be fine then, because God made humanity perfect. There were not any mutations as we're written with now. There would be none of the negative consequences for that, and that was the only recourse for Cain and Seth at that time. Of course, over time, as humanity has progressed, we have accumulated in our genome these mutations that are very often negative. And so we've discovered that it is better to have children by people who are further removed, more distant in the human genealogy, I'll say, than brother, sister, first cousin, those kinds of things. I don't know where Abraham fits into this picture. I'm trying to think through what else we've seen in this. Well, I think we're going to see something in the future. Let me go ahead and get through this passage, make sure I've got all the context from this passage that I need before I continue. So he explains, she is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God caused me to wander from my father's house, I said to her, this is the kindness you must do me. At every place to which we come, say of me, he is my brother. So I think this suggests that we hear about Abraham and Sarah doing this in Egypt. We hear about him doing this with Abimelech. But this seems like a continuing practice with Abraham. We don't know whether when he was among the Canaanites, maybe when he was living in the region of his friend Mamre, if he was saying the same thing about Sarah there, that she's my sister and she's saying he's my brother. This seems to be the tactic that Abraham has chosen. I think it's interesting that Abraham has to explain this, that he's got to get to the nth detail. She's not my mother's daughter, she's my father's daughter. Has to explain that in order to explain why she became his wife. I don't know if perhaps there was some stigma to marrying someone this close. And yet later on, I see Abraham make what appears to be a cultural decision when he does have his son, Isaac, and Isaac is old enough to have a wife. Abraham sends his servant back to Abraham's family in the land that God told him to leave. God told him, leave your family, go to the land I will show you, which turned out to be Canaan. And now when Abraham wants to get a wife for Isaac, it makes sense. He's looking at the nations around him. God has told him, your offspring are going to go and be slaves in Egypt, and then they're going to come back because the sin of the Amorites has not been completed. Let me get that wording proper here. Let's see, I think that would be Genesis 15, yeah. Yeah. Know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be servants there, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace, you shall be buried in a good old age, and they shall come back here in the 4th generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. And what God did was bringing Israel, Abraham's descendants, back from their slavery in Egypt. He resettled them in the land that Abraham had lived in, that God had promised Abraham. But in order to do that, they had to conquer the Amorites, had to drive out the Amorites. And so they wound up being the punishment of the Amorites for the Amorites' sin, iniquity. So apparently this iniquity is happening. Interesting, Abraham's friend Mamre was an Amorite. The other 3 mentioned in Genesis 14 down here who were able to get the spoils of Sodom, they were brothers. We find out earlier in this passage. So I think they all would have been Amorites. But that apparently Abraham is looking at the region of Canaan and he's seeing wickedness. He's identifying wickedness in the region. Maybe that's why he's saying, they're going to kill me. If they know she's my wife, they're going to kill me. Let's see, trying to see exactly where that connects here. So it makes sense that when Abraham has to find a wife for his son Isaac, maybe he'd look around and say, I don't like the girls here. I don't like the influences here. It seems like these women would take my son away from God. They wouldn't draw my son to God. I'll at least look where I came from, because I know that I follow God, even though I came from, or maybe even because of, the family that I came from. And so I can see why he'd make that decision, but naturally it would mean that Isaac is getting someone who's going to be somewhat related to him. So we'll delve into that more when we get to that passage. But at this point, that divide, the cultures had not come to the point where the divide between families was recognized to be necessarily. They weren't trying to seek the widest divide they could when they got married. Definitely when God gives the law to Israel, God gives them laws saying you can't marry someone who's closely related or have relations with someone who's closely related. So that's where God kind of makes a distinction there. So let's see. So Abraham is telling Abimelech, I thought there is no fear of God at all in this place. And yet it's interesting, Abraham was afraid of Abimelech, but Abimelech was afraid of God. And Abraham appears to have forgot God for a moment. Not that he rejected God, but it's very human to forget the existence of God and all that he has promised to do for us, all that he is willing to do for us. And so Abimelech winds up in this case to be more godly than Abraham, I would suggest. Then Abimelech took sheep and oxen, and male servants and female servants, and gave them to Abraham, and returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before you, dwell where it pleases you. Which is very different than the way the Egyptian Pharaoh treated Abraham. I wonder if it's because God told him, for he is a prophet, so that he will pray for you and you shall live. God is saying, my protection is on this man Abraham. So if you're dealing with a God that threatened to kill you, maybe you want to treat his prophet with respect, even if you feel slighted by that prophet. I can only suggest that that might be why Abimelech winds up treating Abraham well, while the Pharaoh of Egypt definitely, I think the Pharaoh's response was just. Praise the Lord, Abimelech decided to be merciful in this case. To Sarah, he said, Behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It is a sign of your innocence in the eyes of all who are with you, and before everyone you are vindicated. So in other words, you can't say, it is a covering of the eyes for all. When I studied this I was looking at the King James Version. Interestingly, it's harder to read. I'm not sure what to make of the version here, so ESV probably has a good understanding of this. Behold, I have given thy brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, he is to thee a covering of the eyes. So apparently it's ambiguous whether that's supposed to be he or it. Unto all that are with thee, and with all other. Thus she was reproved. So the King James Version kind of seems to take the stance that I don't know what idiom a covering of the eyes would be, if it's suggesting that Abimelech was saying your husband, your stepbrother, led you astray, and so Sarah is being reproved, or if, as the ESV says, the silver is a sign of her innocence and before everyone you are vindicated. So I'm not quite sure how to understand this. I think the idea, and this is going to be important later on in a few chapters, is a concept of witness. So Abraham and Sarah, if they're ever questioning how Abimelech feels about them, as long as they have that 1,000 pieces of silver, or maybe whatever that 1,000 pieces of silver buys for them, then that stands as a testimony. He gave us this 1,000 pieces of silver to vindicate Sarah. Even in the King James Version, that 1,000 pieces of silver, 1,000 pieces of silver seems to that Sarah is vindicated, as we read it here. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, and also healed his wife and female slaves so that they bore children. For the Lord had closed all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. So I think that's interesting that, as I mentioned before, if Abimelech had not been stopped, if God had not kept him away from Sarah, then there would be questions about whose father Isaac was, wouldn't there? And so the affliction that God put on this household was to close the wombs of the household. Also makes me wonder how long Sarah was in this situation, because how long would it take for this family to realize that the women in the family couldn't give birth? Maybe shorter than I would expect, but it just has me wondering. So we're there. We're at the end. We're done with the housekeeping. Swept a lot of nasty stuff out. I do want to kind of tie this together. I wanted to kind of mention the unintentional consequences of sin. Like I said, I think where Lot wound up was in part because of decisions Lot had made that were not necessarily righteous decisions. Lot allowed himself to be drawn closer and closer and finally into the city of Sodom. Still remained faithful to God's standards for things like physical relationships, that kind of thing. But we see him getting attached to the city. So kind of elevating his relationship with the city above his relationship with God in some respects. Thankfully, God rescued him before that before that went so far as to be irrevocable. I think just a hair from that, given that Lot made it into the city of Zoar, and apparently Lot's wife did not, because she turned around, and even he had lingered in Sodom when he should have been running. In the case of Abraham, he's got this bright idea. We'll just tell people the truth, right? We'll tell them that you're my sister. No way I would be, apparently there's enough of a stigma to it, or enough of an implication to it, that she's his sister means she would not be married to him, which of course was not the case. There was enough of a justification in the fact that she was his half-sister, apparently. So we'll just tell people the truth, and they won't attack me, and everything will be happy. But this was still a deception, even a hair of a deception. Leaving this deceit by implication. And that was enough that really this threatened all of humanity. And what I mean by that is Isaac is the descendant of Abraham directly, his son. We're still waiting for a deliverer for the human race at this point in Genesis. And in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, we get the first prophecy about this deliverer. I will put enmity between you, the serpent who tempted Eve, and the woman, which would be Eve, and between your offspring and her offspring, between your seed and her offspring, probably the same word seed there. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. So as I read this, I understand the serpent to be Satan, who the Bible tells us that he tempted Jesus. Jesus is the one I would understand to be the woman's offspring. But at least in this verse, I suggest that we're looking for someone whose head is not bruised by the serpent. In this curse, the serpent gets destroyed because, and the word is bruise here, and the word bruise could also be translated crush. So I'll go back to the Hebrew on that. Sorry, no, that's not where I wanted to be. You shall bruise, sup, or shuf actually. To bruise, crush, gape upon, to fall upon, bruise. There's an idea to break. So it doesn't just mean a light injury. It could mean to crush. Her offspring will bruise the serpent's head. The serpent will crush the serpent's head. The serpent will crush his heel, which we recognize Jesus was crucified to take away our sin. And that's what we recognize. It looked like he was totally crushed. I mean, that looked like a crush to the head, essentially. That killed Jesus, but Jesus, being God's son, rose again the third day. He was not crushed in that sense, metaphorically. He was not destroyed physically, totally. However, when he did rise from the dead, he took all of the power that the serpent, that would be Satan, had at his disposal. Just went through a Bible study last night. Our church has Bible studies for my age group on Thursday evenings. And we were looking at the book of Hebrews and basically how Jesus, because Jesus became like one of us and saved us from our sin, basically the only power that Satan has over those who have accepted Jesus as their Savior and have had their sins forgiven by God through Jesus' sacrifice, the only power Satan has over them is whatever he can get them to believe through his lies. In other words, as long as we're trusting in Jesus for our salvation, there is no lasting harm that Satan can do to us. We get restored when we go to heaven for eternity. Certainly we are responsible for our behavior, and what we do on this earth can harm us in the short term on this earth. But God restores all of that for those who trust in Jesus as their Savior when they move on into eternity. But to get back to this passage, the deliverer spoken of in this passage, we're looking for someone whose head is not crushed, who will crush the serpent's head. The worst that happens to him is his heel gets crushed, which is painful, but we generally understand a wound like that doesn't usually kill a person. I'm suggesting that anyone who sins has already had their head crushed essentially by the serpent, because sin brings death. The Bible tells us the wages, the payment for sin. And so anyone who sins would not qualify to be this deliverer. Later on, Genesis chapter 12, we see God making some promises to Abraham. I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. And Abraham is a wealthy guy. Abraham is certainly a blessing to the people who are around him, but how is it that all of the families of the earth are going to be blessed through Abraham? As we continue in the Bible, I think it becomes clear that, tell you what, read something. I'm going to chase a little rabbit trail while I'm talking. I think it becomes clear that the deliverer is prophesied to be a descendant of Abraham. Abraham later has a descendant named Judah. The deliverer is said, it's prophesied to come through the line of Judah. Later through the house of David. David was I think the first great king of Israel. And but all that lineage comes through Isaac. So what if there was a question about whether or not Isaac was the descendant of Abraham? Well, that would have implications on whether or not his descendants could be the deliverer. So I think it was God's, I think God in his wisdom was keeping this question from existing, where she belongs. And then when she has a son, it will be clear that son is Abraham's. It is not the offspring of anyone else. But that could have ended very badly, I think, for all of humanity, because then there would be questions about who that deliverer winds up being. There's still questions, but I think as we look at biblical prophecy, they get answered pretty clearly. I'm just checking, because I think I had seen something like a headline on a YouTube video or something about this covenant that God made with Abraham in, actually it was in chapter 17. God made a covenant with Abraham. Be the father of multitude of nations. Kings shall come from you. I will establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and your offspring after you. And I will give you and your offspring after you the land of your sojournings and the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. So I think that's what I read. That's what it was coming back to. Why is this an everlasting covenant? How can you have an everlasting covenant with a finite human race? Human lineages die out all the time. If there is someone who doesn't wind up having a child to carry their name on, this was the concern of Lot's daughters. There's no one to carry our name on. So they made a decision, I think it was a bad one, in order to keep their name existing. But it's very easy for those names, those lineages, to be snuffed out. So God is promising to keep Abraham's line existing for perpetuity, for forever. How does that work? Well, certainly it works if the deliverer, the Son of God, the only one who can exist without sinning, and therefore he is the heir of eternal life, essentially. He had eternal life to begin with. He was the author of eternal life, being this God the Son. So there's a lot of paradoxes working together here. But certainly his existence simplifies that matter. He's going to exist forever. He is a descendant of Abraham. He blesses the entire earth by giving us salvation and access to God's mercy. So he resolves a lot of these promises to Abraham. Okay, so that is the Bible segment. I will move on to the gameplay segment. I've been playing computer games for, let's see, which way do I need to go in order to be better in shot here? I've been playing video games on stream for a while now, since the start of the stream. So we'll move on to that. Today is Subnautica. I'll leave that window up for now while I switch to, while I set up the game. Let me go ahead and end the music. Patrick, if you're still in chat, a few weeks ago, not a few weeks ago, I think it was week before last, a couple weeks ago, you had asked if I wanted to play games with you. And so, I'll tell you what, I can turn up the sound here. So, we never solidified whether we were going to play games together or not. I've put it down in the description that I'm playing Subnautica today, but next week I'm taking off for Christmas Eve. The following week, I plan to play Minecraft, but if you respond in this stream, let me get my thoughts together here. I can close this window in the game, and then I can pull up, tell you what, I should load this while I'm talking. And then once the load screen is gone, then I'll pull up the proper screen. I can go to full screen cam. So, taking a break off for Christmas Eve this upcoming week, and then the following week I either plan to play Minecraft, or if you respond in this stream, you can choose whether we want to play Minecraft together or whether we want to play Raft together. So if I don't hear from you in this stream while I'm playing Subnautica, then I'll just play Minecraft by myself when I come back on stream. If I do hear from you, then you get to choose if on, tell you what is December the 31st, so the day before New Year's. If that works for you, then let me know if you want to play Minecraft together, or if you want to play Raft together, if that sounds good. I think for you it's actually going to be New Year's Day. I assume it's the same for you as it is here in the US. I know in China they have a different New Year's Day, so that's why I'm kind of hedging. I think I can pull up the screen of the game now. There we go. I'm kind of mirrored up in the top there. But if I lean to the left, I actually move to the left, and if I lean to the right, I actually move to the right. So that's fun. Okay, and let me get my mouse focus on the screen. So, what do I have in my inventory? Lots of titanium. Was I planning on building a base? No, I was taking... Excuse me, I was breaking up bases, I remember. Got a recipe for enameled glass. I can get a stalker tooth. Huh. And I'm thinking, unless necessary, I'll probably stay away from the text in this stream, in this game for this stream. I was reading through the text last time. Unfortunately, when you get into the story segments for these games, they may have language. Okay, so we had blueprints for the observatory, scanner room, which is going to be useful, multi-purpose room. That's where the enamel glass recipe comes in. Thermal plant, converts heat to energy at maximum efficiency, but we need magnetite and aerogel. And I don't know how to come up with that yet, I think. Got a vehicle upgrade console. Interesting. Bioreactor. That is good. That will give us energy as long as we have the biological materials to feed that. So maybe I want to work at developing that. Got a battery charger in the works. Excellent. Okay, yeah, so a lot of messages here. I do want to look at these because sometimes... Sometimes these messages do give us indications about what we ought to look for next, but in general I want to stay out of the story, I think, today, because I'm busy sorting some things out. Maybe I'll talk about them during the gameplay segment, unless anybody chimes in chat and lets me know they have something else they want to talk about. I consider this gameplay segment to be a bit looser, where you get to comment on how things are going if you want to talk about them. I tend to be maybe a little bit less dedicated to whatever topic I'm on, or keeping things philosophical or theological or whatever. So we had a message from LifePod 13. Do we have those coordinates? Yes, that one is marked. We've seen that before, I think. This one I think we've found before. Aurora Rendezvous Point, we've been there. Officer Keen's last broadcast location. I think I'll color that. Proposed Degassi habitat. What's that? Is that in my... Okay. So anyway, LifePod 4, I think I can explore around there now. And I want to say that I've seen all I need to here. Yeah, so I'm in a bit of a conflict regarding where to go on this channel for segments like this. And I guess I don't. There's diamond. I've got that. Do I have a cutter tool? I think I need a second diamond in order to get a cutter tool. We can put this away. I don't know what these do. Maybe they just make things look pretty. Got a power cell at 8%, so I'll set that aside for now. Battery at 100%. And I can check the charge on these items maybe later. Let's see. 34, 70, 83. And what is the battery power on that? 78. So the flashlight is going to need the battery soonest, I guess. What about the Habitat Builder? 96, not bad. And then for... I do have a blueprint for a solar panel, which is basic energy production. But now that I can make a bioreactor, and I wonder if solar power panels are that important. But do I have copper anywhere? I don't see copper. Might be worth trying to pick some up. Okay. So, I think the game has been kind of nudging us in that direction. Especially... Oh, I need to check where my sea moth is and whether the lights are on, because they always start on. I don't want it to run out the battery. We've got a 90% power cell. Radiation detected. Let me back up, because apparently this is bad. Does it affect me if I'm in the sea moth? I've got my radiation suit, but I'm wearing my rebreather. Ah. Okay. No radiation here, but we live pretty close to it. Is there? Okay, no, there's no radio messages, by the way. So we'll switch out our helmet. And then we can put that helmet away for now. All set. Now we won't get any warnings. Except it's evening. But I think as long as we don't go right up next to the Aurora, we should be fine. Except maybe I better... Oh. It looks misaligned here. That's better. It was like I was looking to the right, out the right window or something. Oh. Is it already light again? Or is that just the way this area looks in the dark? It's just how this area looks in the dark, which is nice. I don't think I have to use up the light energy to make this visible on stream for now. We want to find Life Pod 4. I do know where that is. Did I explore that earlier? It's getting darker again. I don't know why it got light earlier and it's dark now, but okay. And my hunger and fluids are pretty good. I think before I get on the Aurora, actually, I probably want to make sure that I have extra resources for water and food. Now we're in the dead zone near the Aurora. So I'm not the only one in my family who runs a YouTube channel. I've mentioned before on a video long ago that my brother runs his own YouTube channel. Yeah, okay. We're as far as I want to go. And the life pod I'm looking for should be in this neighborhood. I hear something scary. I don't think we're close to it, but if I can hear it, I'm very concerned. Okay, that was me hitting something behind me. That was not the Reaper Leviathan I'm concerned about. I want to say in previous plays of this game, there's been a Reaper Leviathan at the front of the Aurora and one at the back of the Aurora. Unless it's just been the same one in two places, but I think I found what I'm looking for. Yep, that's it. I don't run a YouTube channel. I guess I need to keep those on. We're at 88% power. Let's see what the surface is doing. It looks like the sun might be coming up soon. Or at least the sky looks kind of light. Compared to pitch black night. Okay, I think maybe we can see. I'm not hearing the Leviathan. How do you pronounce that? Okay, I did not explore this earlier. Life pod 4 crew log.
Integrating new PDA data.
So we will check that out, because these things tend to be clues. But hopefully I don't have to put a warning in the title. Okay, time capsules, data downloads, Aurora survivors. Oh, there's the LifePod 13 emissary's voice log. I am not going to play the audio. I've seen this yesterday, I mean not yesterday, last stream I think. Here's the LifePod 4 crew log. I think I can play this audio.
To any Altera crew. Landed in area of significant alien activity. Encountered predators in the Leviathan class, highly aggressive. Spectroscope scanner assigned species designator Reaper. One specimen attempted to swallow the life pod, doing extensive damage in the process. Only viable option is to make for the safety of the Aurora crash site. I have retrieved a data box with the creature decoy and enough resources to fabricate a couple of them. The swim's longer than the decoy lifetime, but it should just be enough to keep them busy. If you don't find me on board the ship, presume I miscalculated.
Okay, so I just got a creature decoy. Is there a place to install this? Shouldn't I be holding it? I'm not sure how these decoys work. Oh, I think maybe I got a... Did I get the blueprint or did I get the actual decoy? Got a Cyclops engine decoy blueprint. I got a blueprint. Okay, that's fine. So I can construct these. Are my lights on or off? There we go. So I'm supposed to be heading for that thing. But there are Reaper Leviathans in the area. There are some of these containers around. That looks like it has... Is that a propulsion gun? Or a prawn arm? I'm starting to get hungry. And I don't have food with me. Oh, hello. Bye. Do we want to see if I'm stronger than you guys? Yeah, this is a place where things get dicey. But I want to check that box in case it has water in it. And I probably do want to go fishing. Water. There tends to be water in this area. Because I know you're about to go on a trip. Do I have those prawn arms in my blueprints? I feel like I did. Nope. That's a propulsion cannon. Okay, how long before a stalker gets me? Okay. Great.
New blueprint acquired.
That one was thinking about it, I think. And this is what? This is stalker bait. Yes. Hi. Okay. I may already have that piece, and I have plenty of titanium. I think I might just save that for now. I know where I can come back to it. Yep. Playing too close, I think. Oh, is that thing sick? I'm seeing green spots. I don't like it.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Yeah, so my brother runs a YouTube channel. In fact, I think he runs a few of them. I definitely know if you're interested in caricature art, he is a caricature artist. And so you can check out his channel, Draw Too Much. That's the word draw, the number 2, and the word much. DRAW, number 2, and then much. All one word. Okay, let's scan this. That looks like it might be useful. Whoop, wrong item. Hey, can I eat you? Thank you.
New creature discovered.
Okay, good. Making progress there. And this is a good place to find good eats. So you want to come up from below, because those guys do not have eyes underneath. Oh, some of this, okay, I think that's lithium, but that might be a source of diamond.
Passing 100 meters.
Yeah.
Oxygen efficiency
Nope.
decreased.
Lead. I think it was lead. Well, I did not mean to be outside. Lithium, okay. I thought the other rock was lithium. This kind of thing. I'm gonna check. Yep, straight lithium. Gold. I have room for one more fish. Got him. I don't have what it takes to make more water. I don't have room to grab what it takes to make more water. So I'm going to check and see if our storage back at the life pod is fine. Has what I need or not. Or else I may go on a dedicated outing, because I'm getting hungry and I'm getting thirsty. So if you like characters, check out my brother's channel, Draw Too Much. If you like... I saw a video where he was playing a game testing Mirror's Edge. He made this video a while ago, but I think I want to respond to it because I think his reaction to the game was interesting and shed some light on kind of my upbringing as well as his. Of course, we both came from the same place. He had issues with the foul language in that game, just like you've heard if you've been here for a while, that I have issues with foul language in games in general. And okay, so I've got some space now. Got plenty of gold. And is that lithium? Yeah. Got no more room in here. So I probably need to make a base, use up some of this titanium, and then I can be closer to the Aurora so that I can build the supplies I need, accumulate the supplies I need before I go in. So I think that's the plan of attack here. I do see salt. Oh, hold on. There we go. I don't see any good coral for water production, so I'm going to take care of that right away. So my brother was trying this game on his channel, Legacy Studios. He has a lot of diverse interests, and for a while he was trying to cover all of these interests on the same channel. But I think more recently he's decided to experiment with splitting them up. See if things work better for him trying his interests on different channels. So I would expect more gaming type content, maybe on his Legacy Studios channel. Okay, bleach is what I'm looking for. And then I can make some water. So that will give me 2 of those. Let me go ahead and cook another fish. That fish is ready for the future. Okay, so now I'll go to develop another base close to the Aurora. And see if I could set that up for resource production so I can be really ready. That fish was swimming fast. I wonder where that came from. I don't need another piece of coral yet. But I could use some more salt. I know I saw some when I was driving by. There are more fish. I think I'm satisfied with my with how many fish I've got. There's salt. Okay. So let's see, I was bringing up my brother's channel because I would like to react to that video, as I think I said. And he's he's definitely got a commitment. Let's see. How close do I want to get to the edge here? There's a box. It's getting dark fast. I expect this is a eclipse. I don't want to have my lights on because I think that attracts... Yeah, there we go. It was an eclipse. I think that attracts those Reapers. I can't tell if the box in front of me is the one I saw earlier. Probably. I would like to... Oh, there. I think I see something in the water. Yeah, that's it. That's the Reaper. And it looks like it's heading closer. It's probably hard to see beyond my jet stream, but I saw a Reaper pretty clearly over there. Feeling like I don't want to be much closer than this. I feel reasonably safe up here, I think. As long as there's no more stalkers in the neighborhood. I think we're reasonably far from them. So, let me go back in here where it's safe, and then I'm going to pull out my habitat builder. Assign that to my quick spot. I think I want my knife on hand just in case. In case it gets dark, my flashlight. I don't see a reason to have anything else front and center. So, to get building. I need a foundation, yes? I can't tell where Reaper is or where I can place this foundation. It seems like it wants to be above me. Does that imply... I think I was able to build a base earlier without a foundation. I think... Okay, yeah. So what... Let's try this X compartment. I'm getting dark, definitely, because I'm taking my sweet time. Put it there. Is it going to drop? Okay, no, it's got some legs. I still have oxygen, so that's good. Can I make a hatch to get in there? Okay. But I'm going to need some sort of energy. I don't have what it takes to make a bioreactor, yes? There it is. Yeah, I need a wiring kit and lubricant. And I'm going to need oxygen in a second.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
That's a beautiful base. Something odd about the surface there. Can't tell where that light I saw was reflecting, or maybe it was just a graphics glitch. So yeah, my brother is pretty committed to keeping his content family friendly. So if you comment on his comments, he encourages everyone to keep it clean. And that is what I'm kind of thinking over, what I'm kind of considering. As I've said, I care about foul language and the kind of language that at least I express on this channel. Okay, that spadefish is getting old. So, may as well eat it before it gets spoiled. And I think I'm going to want to set up the... Yeah, I don't need that. I'm going to want to set up the solar panel after all. Oh, heard something else roaring nearby, and I thought that Reaper Leviathan had found me. That's why they keep stalkers here, to keep you on your toes. That's why the devs put them here. So let's see. I'm looking for the solar panels. Making sure I have what I need for that. I think I do. I need copper. Okay. Well, that's sandstone. I think I'm going to do better if I can find limestone. Like this. Ah, copper. Okay, that solves that problem. Feel like I'm playing with fire sitting here. Okay, so I can set a solar panel here. We're really close to the surface, so it should be able to give me some good light. I hate leaving the lights on while I leave the structure, but I guess they need to be, it needs to be on. They make you take your sweet time about it? Okay. And I think I just narrowly avoided being chomped. Can't tell. Definitely enough supplies here to build things like solar panels. There's a box that might be useful. But there's also a stalker nearby. I've got my knife available. But they're attracted to metal shiny things. I think it's safe to dash out there. Okay, battery. That's nice. Yep, 100, 100. I could make a power cell if necessary. Down to 75% here. So I think I need to wait until the sun comes up so that solar panel starts producing enough energy to oxygenate the interior. There we go.
Power restored. Welcome aboard. Broadcast systems online.
What does it take to make a fabricator? Copper ore. Fair enough. I think that is limestone. Yeah. Right next to the stalker. I'm asking for it. Whoa, I'm asking for it. Aw. Okay, got my knife. It's guarding my... You get away from me. Was that copper or was that titanium? That was titanium. There's copper. Of course, the fabricator is going to take energy. But I need it if I'm going to make food and water for myself. Let's see, this is my tool. Forgot which one I was using. Oh, okay. I did not want a radio. So, gold and table coral, I've got both of those back home. And that is salt down there under the stalker. What is this? A tooth. I might be worth picking up the tooth. Okay.
New blueprint acquired.
Oh, that stalker down there was too close for comfort. Yep. He was eyeing me. Okay. Let's not dawdle. Let's head home. I'm using battery power. So I definitely appreciate my brother's principles for his channel. I think he tends to try to keep things light and entertaining. He's not looking into like he's a Christian like I am, so he appreciates the Bible, but it's not his channel's purpose to be looking into the Bible or philosophy like I'm interested in. When I say I'm interested in philosophy, I'm concerned someone will think I'm an expert in philosophy. And my reason for running this channel is because I want to learn more about philosophy, how to think properly, that kind of thing. And one of the ways you learn is by teaching. Not that I know a lot to teach. I've read a tiny bit. Enough to get me in trouble. And so I hope to use what I know. And hopefully to learn from those who know more than me on this channel. Okay, so I can put that in there. I can take out some gold. And I don't remember how much table coral I needed. That would be in my blueprints. It would not be accessible from the fabricator. That's enough. Good. Let's get a bit of coral, though, before I leave. Because I think I have 2 salt now. Anyway, last week I tried my hand at responding. I prefer to say responding. I know that the genre is reaction. People react to other YouTube videos. But I would like to be more thoughtful than that. I'd like to be considered in my response, not just emotional. So I like to say that I'm responding to YouTube videos. I say reacting when I want to play up the genre, but I really would prefer to be considered to be responding to YouTube videos. The one I responded to mostly last week was Jordan Peterson's video, A Wing and a Prayer. So the link to that is in my stream from last week. You can use that to hop to the video, or of course you can use the search bar to type in Jordan Peterson, A Wing and a Prayer. I'm pretty sure you'll find it that way. Okay, getting close to the Aurora there, and then I can follow this line of rocks to my base. Yep, there it is. Looks so tiny next to the Aurora. But responding to Jordan Peterson's video, I mentioned some of the things that... I wonder if this is going to get in the way when I come in. I'll find out. I mentioned some of the concerns I had about the way I think, the way I respond to society. I mentioned that I think I have some, I'd call it resentment under the surface. I don't like the way society is going, and I don't feel, I don't know if it's fair to say I don't feel represented. There's a lot of Christians on YouTube. I agree with a lot of what a lot of them say. It's a boomerang. They don't tend to have a lot of nourishment. But there are also things that I would disagree with, probably. I would prefer to have my beliefs expressed in a way that I can wholeheartedly agree with, and who can I wholeheartedly agree with more than myself? Of course, even when I comment on things from my own beliefs, I gotta recognize I'm quite possibly wrong about things. So I hedge pretty often, I think, as I talk. I try to recognize that I may be coming from a place of opinion rather than fact. And so that's something I've got to wrestle with. How do I know whether what I'm saying is the truth or not? And like I opened with on this channel, I think that on this channel, my focus, the focus I want to have is let's talk about truth. So if I don't know whether I fully have the truth, or if I'm believing something in error, that kind of thing, or maybe I think I know that what I believe is true, but I happen to be wrong. What am I bringing to this channel? If my focus is let's talk about truth, in what way am I contributing to a discussion about truth? So again, that's where I opened saying I'm bringing my beliefs, so what I believe to be true. Of course, there is a lot of my own commentary in there, a lot of my own reaction, response to the world, to the Bible, to videos, to society, but based on what I believe to be true. And even if I have it wrong, maybe someone can bring their beliefs. Maybe they would have it right. So yeah, I'm definitely hungry. Okay, that should do. And I can make some more water. There we go. Let's see. So I've got bleach. I've got 2 water. I think I can find some more water around. I've got 3 now. If I cook the fish I have, I think I might be willing to make an effort at the Aurora. So let me get this done. Okay. And I hear that Reaper just outside. Kind of be a mess if I lost the sea moth here. What is the best way in? Now I hear that stalker. I'm trying to find the key that takes me directly down.
In this region are sparse. The Aurora's radioactive fallout will have devastating effects on the alien ecosystem if not contained within the next 24 hours.
I've got 24 hours? That can't be right, right? Let's get that arm. Or propulsion cannon, anyway. Don't be coming, don't be coming. It wasn't coming. Good. But I do feel too close. Yep. Does it see me? I don't feel like I'm going fast enough. I hope I'm not leading it to my base. Okay, we're fine. That shape down there makes me think of its pinchers, but that is wreckage. Where's the way in? Don't do that. Made me think it was coming from above. So maybe if I get out of my craft... Oh, this feels too close to it. But maybe if I get out, I can slip through one of these small spaces. And then being so close that the Aurora is shaking does not inspire confidence. Ah, meet it. Where's the down button? I want to see. Okay, got a lot of these spider things here. Let me focus on getting these guys. Okay. That one's dead. That, oh. Okay, that one's dead. What's over here? Aside from more spider craps. In fact, I probably... Did I scan these while I was on the island? I'm not seeing a scan marker, which tells me I probably already have it. That looks dead. Anything in there? No. Doesn't look like a way in. That looks like a mess. My sea moth is still around. Apparently the Reaper Leviathan hasn't decided to destroy that. Okay, this is the way.
Warning, ship's structural integrity is low.
That is to be
Fire
guessed.
suppression equipment and laser cutters may be required. Exploration is conducted at your own risk.
I don't have a laser cutter. So I probably need to go back and see if I can obtain some diamond before I commit to this. But it's night, and I think those Reaper Leviathan things are more active at night, especially if I'm using my lights. Did I just pass one of those crabs? I don't think so. So I had mentioned before when the bot was on the channel that my goal is to allow people the freedom to say what they want to say, to speak their beliefs. Let's see. Kind of hard to talk and fight these guys at the same time. Okay, that guy's dead. Good. I must have struck him once before. Okay. If there's a Reaper, I can't see it. If I get to my sea moth. I think I will not be turning on the lights until I get away. Can't even find the correct input here. There's my base. Oops. I'm too eager to get away. Okay. So home for now.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
These things are getting old. Probably wouldn't be a bad time to look out for some more diamonds if I can get somewhere safe. Let's see if I can pull some of my thoughts together.
Oxygen efficiency decreased.
Diamond! What else do I need for a laser cutter? So much for getting my thoughts together. That is actually part of what I am trying to get across here. Let's see, laser cutter. There we go. This cave sulfur I think I have. Let's go back to the life pod. My battery is starting to run low on this. So to pull my thoughts together if I can. I want to talk about truth. To do that, and to overcome any biases I have or false beliefs, those kinds of things, I'm thinking the best option I have is to present my beliefs, which I did in the beginning of this stream talking about the Bible. I'm going through the Bible one stream at a time. I'm not sure how far I am going to get, but I for the moment, for the time being, my plan continue ideally through the Bible, but that would be over a course of years, and so we'll see whether that plan holds or not. But want to talk about my beliefs, and the Bible is the way I do that. And what I'd love is for you viewers to contribute with your beliefs. Okay, I need that. I need cave sulfur. And what else was it? Was it gold? Got it. Nah, I didn't need gold. Okay. So I've got 3 water, 2 old fish. I think I want to get some more fish on the way to the other base. Do I have what I need to make more water? I'll grab some coral and some more salt. That way if I get too thirsty by the time I get to the other base, I'll be fine. Part of allowing you to speak about your beliefs is being committed to not trying to silence beliefs that I don't like, not trying to, the other consideration I have is, let's say that I exercise a principle that I don't want any swearing on this channel, then I'm thinking what I'd like to ask you to do is to express yourself in the best way possible. And I would suggest that that would be without swearing. I think swearing can be a distractor for people like me who have personal convictions about what we listen to or consume. However, as I've said on this channel, I do consume content that has language in it because I want to engage with the ideas that that content has. I want to listen past the language that offends me, and that would go for listening to you too, and hear not what the person is saying. Hear what the person is saying, not just how they're saying it. I've got a radio message. What's that all about? I'll check that before I get out of the region. So the channel's still pretty small. I don't tend to have a lot of folks in chat. So where do I get the conversations that I'm hoping to have, the back and forth about ideas? How do I not come off as a teacher trying to be expert on the Bible and come off more as a learner trying to brush up on my communication practices, engaging with people who have differing beliefs from me? So let's hear this message.
An automated distress signal from life pod 12. Coordinates attached. Warning. Life pod has sunk beyond safe diving distance. Do not attempt retrieval without submersible support.
Signal location uploaded to PDA.
Okay, life pod 12. Let's make that visible. That I'm going to color differently. 1208 meters. Whoa, that is definitely below safe diving distance. That is also in the general vicinity I'm heading in. I don't think it's over by the Aurora. I don't want to go all the way down there, but I'm curious what I'd find generally in that direction. I've got plenty of fish, plenty of water. I still need some salt. I'm a bit busy looking for the salt, so I'm not immediately jumping onto my topic, even though I'd like to. Don't do that. Don't jump out of a moving sea moth. That's dangerous.
Passing 100 meters. Oxygen efficiency decreased.
Noted. So what I was experimenting with last week, I was responding to videos. I think that went pretty well for my first run as a newbie at video responses. So I'd like to do more of that, I think. What is that? Looks like a ruin. And it's way over here in a biome I have not been in yet. But I've seen this from other runs, so I know this place is no longer safe. Ah, yep. Case in point. Those guys are hounding that ruin. Okay, and we are getting close to my depth limit. So that's over there, and I probably don't want to wander too far that way, because there's a Reaper that way. I just saw him. I just saw a little bit of him. But I've got a base that way, next to the Aurora. I'm a little bit better equipped. I think I may save while I'm on the Aurora, so I may not finish the run, but I think I at least want to get in, maybe. I'm not sure if saving while I'm not done there is a wise idea. Let's see. Let's have some water and some food and some more water. Who's bumping my sea moth outside? There we go. Oh, you're bumping my sea moth outside.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Okay, we'll try this again. Where's the best entry point? I'm not confident in the size of these gaps. Where's the one I came in through? Is it that one? That seems mighty close. Oh, that looks like a reasonable size. And that looks unreasonably close. It doesn't act like it's seen me. Okay, I think I'm about to make a break for it. It's looking this way, it's turning away. It's looking this way again. Okay. This may actually put me... Oh. This may put me in line of sight, but I don't see him, so I must be safe, right? Let's get out the knife and see what we can do around here. Okay. And if I thought it was hard to talk while I was there watching the Reaper Leviathan, it's going to be even harder on the Aurora. But moving forward. So, part of the way I'm filling in, or at least that I hope to fill in, my own, there it is, the gaps in what I believe. Is there a gap over there? Or my own biases. There's a creepy spider. Gotcha. Is to respond to videos. So responded to the Peterson one, so that doesn't really represent much of a gap in my beliefs. I kind of agree with him in a lot. There are some differences that I had and explained in that video. So I'm planning on responding to my brothers. We have a lot of similarity in beliefs, so that's not going to be too challenging for my position. But I do plan in the future to move into discussing videos that differ in my beliefs, between my beliefs and those videos. I do have medical kits, yes. I believe I've got plenty of medical kits. There we go. You did good. Yeah, 4 of them.
caution. Scans show the digestive tracts of nearby life forms contain human tissues.
Another way I can engage with... see, getting distracted. I either need to deal with these guys or talk, and I want to do both. Another way to engage with ideas that might be different from mine. What's this? Oh, getting too close to the fire, huh? I'm going to need to tap into one of those. Oh, there were explosions. Okay. I learned my lesson. This is... yeah. Another way to engage with beliefs that are different than mine would be like through these games or through other media, maybe movies or something. But when I'm responding either to YouTube videos or to these games, to other people's expression, then, well, and even if I've got someone on the channel talking about their personally held beliefs, I do have conflicts about those because I'll give for instance, from earlier in the life of this channel. At one point, there was a Satanist who would comment regularly in chat. And definitely not what I would expect of a Satanist. I keep having to catch myself this topic. I say he because I tend to assume that the people I encounter on the internet are mostly male. That's probably not true. I bet that, especially being a girl myself, I bet it's reasonable to... there we go. I bet it's reasonable to be to expect girls to be as proficient in using the internet as guys, so there'd probably be a close to 50-50 distribution. Okay. I think I just kind of... there's a side of me. I thought maybe there might be a box
Aurora
here.
systems are running on local reserve power, unable to remotely download black box data.
It's another propulsion cannon, but there's a PDA.
Integrating new PDA data.
Does that tell me anything I need for this journey? So she said unable to download black box data. Drone log. I'm going to quickly okay, I think I do need to put a notice on the stream, so let me take a break to do that. Okay, so I'm loading that up so I can edit it. And that should do it. Yeah, so, tell you what, I'm not going to be derailed by whether I think of most guys on the internet as male or female, most folks on the internet as male or female. I'm just going to get back to the topic that I was on. Anyway, this propulsion cannon. I think it's encouraging me to use a propulsion cannon, so I'm just glancing through that. I can barely see what's in front of me here. Okay, so I might want to get through that door. So anyway, the Satanist was communicated well, was not as abrasive as I'd expect. So definitely appreciated that. But I had and do have a commitment. I wanted to and still want to
New PDA data.
hear people's points of view out first. Ideally, download data.
Integrating new PDA data.
I've got some more details there. What's this? Battery? Nice. I just need something to wrap around that battery to make into a power cell, but at least the batteries will keep my my equipment going. I am running low on this what is this? This thing I'm holding, what is it called? Okay, propulsion cannon fragment. I do believe I have all I need of that. This goes downstairs. To where? Where does that go? There's a gap here, that's fine. Seems solid enough. So anyway, I want to hear others' points of view and ideally to be able to express them. Oh, I did not consider this. I got stuck here in a previous run. But if I can scan that desk, I can make it go away, I think. Where did my scanner go? I right-clicked it. That makes... Oh, nope. That drops it. So if I left-click it, it goes to the quick spot slot. So we move that desk. No. That's not how it works, is it?
New blueprint acquired.
Yeah, on a previous run I got stuck. So I wanted to get over. But I wound up hurting myself instead. But what I was trying to do on the previous run was to try going up here. How much of a ledge is there here? There's that debris. I don't think I can get across. Can I clear this back? It doesn't seem to want to clear back. No? It did? Nope, I'm running out of fuel. Okay. Is there any chance I can jump down there? Ah, that's a bad idea. Do I just need confidence, or is there... Oh, propulsion cannon. Yeah, okay. But I can't just pick one of those up, right? I'd have to make it. And for that I need a... no. I'd need a fabricator. I don't know if it's not letting me place it because I don't have the equipment, which I'm pretty sure I don't. Or because nothing can be placed here. Yeah, nothing can be placed here. Oh, and I did not cook these fish. So it looks like I've got to get back to the sea moth. What's that box? Is that one I've explored? No? Well, why not? Another battery? Oh, that's not my fire extinguisher. That's the name of that thing. Okay. So anyway, this well-spoken Satanist, the first time he came on the channel, the first time they came on the channel, since I don't actually know whether they were male or female, I had nothing identifying about this person other than that they were a Satanist, which definitely was a challenge to me underneath the falling debris here. Because, again, I wanted to be able to treat people who I considered others. Oh, don't step on the red spots. Yes. My goal is to not treat other people like others, to treat people like humans. Kind of hard to do when you don't have any distinguishing features about a person other than the ones that distinguish them as an other. And as this person pointed out in our first conversation, even the word Satanist comes from the name Satan, which in Hebrew means adversary. So it's, I can tell you what, to be frank, from where I sit, it was as if this person walked up with a big neon sign over their head that said enemy. So definitely a challenge to my plans and goals for this channel. The question then is, okay, am I going to treat this person like an enemy, or am I going to treat this person like a human being? And how do I do that when the only distinguishing factors for this person is essentially the level to which they are an enemy? So let me deal with another bot here. There we go. Okay. And then as part of that, yeah, we're in Reaperville again.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
As part of that, I asked this individual about their beliefs, their position. They also, the way they expressed themselves, they weren't being disruptive. They were here to enjoy the content I was producing. But they also, it was obvious that they also were open to express what they believed. I felt like that was pretty clear. So I then had the freedom to ask about their beliefs, which I did that because that's my goal, to get to be able to express the beliefs of the other person that I'm talking to, as well as if I believe those things myself. Not to commit to believing those things, but to be fair enough that if it were necessary for me to express their argument, I could do so in a way that they would agree with, that they would be glad that I was the one who expressed it. So I don't know how well I handled that in hindsight. I tend to assume the worst about how I handled things. So I don't know whether my memory is accurate about it or not. I think I definitely could stand to learn, could stand to grow in maturity regarding conversations with people who are different than me, but we were both civil with one another. I just do want to work on my perspective, and maybe not to be wondering if a person is an enemy the first time I encounter them. But the challenge that I faced with this conversation we had, I could use some resources for producing more water.
100 meters. Oxygen efficiency decreased.
Which needs a wiring kit, and the wiring kit needs silver. Ah, that's not bad. That just requires some sandstone. I saw something in the grass over here. Yeah, that's what I saw. Modification station. I keep dropping these. There we go. Wait, oh, okay, I got a third of the way to that. I'm going, that didn't sound like the fanfare for a full blueprint, but did I get a full blueprint? No. Okay, and do I have this? Not yet, one more. I'm just checking for anything else I want, but my next goal is sandstone. That's limestone. There we go. And hopefully no... yeah, there is that tiger grass. Is that what that's called? I'm not getting close enough to find out because it probably will sting me. There's another sandstone. Oh. I picked up something silvery when I first... oh, lead. That's not what I was after. Couple sandstone in the same vicinity here. Oh, 3. That's silver. And that's silver. Okay. That's what I needed. I'll go back to my newest base. I think I'll be ending the stream before I go back to the Aurora, so I'll have to get the Aurora again when I'll get the Aurora again when I next play Subnautica, which I've been doing a rotation of 4 games, so ordinarily I'd say a month, but like I say, I'm trying to incorporate more video responses into my content, so we'll see how long it takes to get through. Taking the day off to, next week, playing Minecraft the week after, unless Patrick says something in comments. But there's a good chance I'm playing Minecraft in 2 weeks. Maybe if I don't hear from him, then I'll be playing. Then I'll be responding to my brother's video after Minecraft. So in 3 weeks. But I'm not wrapping up just yet because I had more thoughts to go through. Wiring kit. I'll probably just shift to full screen cam so that I can talk without being distracted by the game. That's what I need. Yeah, so I'll call it quits here now that I've got this. That's enough progress for one day. Okay, I think that's just a tool. Yep. Okay. So, I'll pause there and save. Go to full screen and pull up some background music also. We can quit Subnautica here and go back to Spotify, where I've got my Stream Beats playlist. There we go. Alright, so the challenge that I discovered, it is definitely one of my values. Let me just clean up some of what's in front of me here. Definitely one of my values is being able to get to know someone else's position, ideally well enough that if they needed someone to make their argument in their stead, they'd at least consider me and think positively of that. But how do you take someone's worldview, the lens through which they see the world? I bring my Christianity to this channel. I do not exhaust it. I don't get anywhere near exhausting it. I don't even get anywhere near scratching the surface in one of these streams. So how do I take someone else's worldview and address it on this stream, get to know it well on the stream, get to experience their reasons for why they hold that worldview? It takes at least a stream. It probably takes more than a stream. And the challenge for me, because I come from the position that what I believe is true. And definitely, if what I believe turns out to be untrue, I want to set it aside. But if what I believe is actually true, I don't want to set it aside, right? And if what I believe is true, then whatever someone else believes that's in opposition to that is untrue. And there's a part of me that doesn't want to promote untruth. There's a huge stigma these days against misinformation. In order to grapple with and understand someone else's worldview, it takes at least a stream to do, probably more than a stream. It requires kind of airing out a worldview during the course of that stream. When I first had my first conversation with the Satanist I'm thinking of, I basically gave him the air for that first stream, and I asked questions. They were challenging questions. I think it was good that I challenged him. I kind of want to assess next time I have a conversation what my spirit is, what my attitude is when I ask such question. That's still something that I think I'm going to have to practice and probably won't get right the next time either. Not an excuse for getting it wrong, but just being frank about my limitations, my failings. So the first stream was basically his position. And after that stream, I said, okay, I'm going to come back next stream and give my position from a biblical perspective, which, of course, I run this stream, so that's my right? However, I don't know that I can say that I fully understood his position. I just knew it a little bit better than I had before, which isn't what I'd like. I would like to really understand where a person is coming from before I offer a challenge. So that's one of my conflicts, is how do I go about doing that? How do I wrestle with this concept that I would be a platform for someone to speak things that I believe to be lies, essentially. Maybe lies is too hard a word, because if someone actually believes them to be true, it's not like that person is lying, but to be a platform for falsehoods. I think that would be a fairer perspective. So that is something I'm grappling with, because I really do think don't want to come across as promoting them. That's the thing. I want it understood that on this channel I'm open-eared, but I am also committed to the truth, and I believe that I have the truth in large part. I'm open to being wrong, but where I don't know that I'm wrong, I'm committed to what I believe. The other consideration that I'm thinking through, okay, so grappling with people conversing, I'm dealing with promoting their beliefs. What about grappling with a video that presents beliefs that are different than mine? How do I appropriately approach that video? Do I, as soon as I get into the video, start saying, well, I nitpick that point and I nitpick this point before we even get to the final point, what that video is actually promoting? That doesn't feel great. Do I sit and listen the whole video through? Well, the idea behind a reaction or a response is to offer your commentary, and ideally the more commentary the better, because then you can make a better argument for fair use. I'm not sure how it all works if you have large gaps between inserting yourself into the content, if that could be an argument used against you. Oh, that wasn't real commentary, that wasn't truly in fair use. So that's something I'm new as a streamer about. And then there's the question, if I present a video that has language in it, if I play a game that has language in it, like Subnautica, like I've had to put a warning on this stream about the language in Subnautica, am I promoting the language in the game? I mean, there are people who then would be exposed to that language, possibly minors, that would be exposed to that language. There's no necessary age limit, I think, to the people who come to this channel. So definitely I was hedgy with the way I was expressing myself today. The aftermath of Sodom is a rough subject. I'm conscious of the possibility that my videos could be viewed by minors. Obviously, when I put my videos up on YouTube, I say this content is not made for children, so I intend to make the content for adults. I may not always be conscious that the videos are watched by minors. Definitely, it's my commitment to keep my language clean, but I'm talking about the evils that are in the world too, and sometimes very heinous evils. I would like to speak about them directly, and I don't know what level is too direct, to put it frankly. To what point might my channel expose those who would not encounter a foul word, or might not encounter a foul concept when I'm engaging with those things? So what I do, like I did on this channel, I applied a label saying, warning, there's foul language in the gameplay. So hopefully someone coming to this stream won't be exposed to the foul language that I saw in the gameplay. I don't intend to put a warning necessarily on talking about evil, because that's something that that's a truth. The world is evil. There are evils out there. They ought to be exposed. But to what extent should people be exposed would be the question. And to what extent do I want to be the instrument by which people are exposed? So that's where I value what my brother's stance is. on his channel. He's saying we're going to keep it clean. We're going to keep this a place that's clear from those evils. And I think that works very well for his channel. For my channel, I want to grapple with ideas and philosophy and the way that people handle those. I don't know that I can do that and necessarily commit to a perfectly clean channel, because I'm not willing to insist that people be perfect and clean as they express what they really believe. So those are some of the questions I've had. So like a game like Subnautica, do I want to continue playing a game like that with language in the future? That's something I'm still debating. I think in general I would like to kind of phase games to the back burner if they have a place on the channel at all. One of the issues with games especially is today I'm able to put a language warning on the game. But next time I stream that game or some other game that would have language in it, what if I don't encounter language during the gameplay? Or what if someone joins my stream before I've been able to put a label up, watches for a few minutes, thinks, oh, that's a fun game, I think I want to join to buy myself that game, signs off, and then after they've left the channel, then I discover the language. And maybe they would not have chosen to buy that game had they known there was language, but because they weren't there for the section of the stream where that language was exposed, then they wind up making a poor purchase. So those are the questions that I have about the channel. On the other hand, there are games that I would like to engage with where the ideas they have. For instance, I played a game called Spiritfarer not too long ago. It is a game with language. I'm not happy about how the characters express themselves some kind. Definitely got a fun cartoony design to it. Plays into some of the crafting elements. I think but I think there's crafting involved where you need ingredients in order to build this half cruise ship, half city that you're developing to ferry the deceased to the afterlife, whatever that is. They don't tell you what the afterlife is, but there's this ever door that you ferry these souls to, and when they're ready to go through that ever door, then they do. Definitely excludes the possibility of a biblical afterlife. This is not the way that the Bible teaches the afterlife works. It says it is appointed to man once to die, and then the judgment, understood to be to it. I recognize there are some denominations that consider themselves to be Christian that would, and I say denomination, sometimes it's hard to tell if they're if the right word is denomination or cult, so I'm not going to make that distinction for this stream, but that claim that judgment is not immediate, I do believe it, that it is. That you die and you go either straight to heaven or straight to what the Bible calls the lake of fire. What I think the word hell is also used in the Bible. I do get kind of antsy about using that word because it sounds so close to another religion's afterlife, so I don't want any confusion. But this game Spiritfarer, because it deals with the subject of death, I think it would be interesting to engage with the way it approaches death. I think the approach is very hollow. But do I want to promote that game, given that I disagree with the approach, given that there is language in it that I disagree with? Even me speaking about it on the channel, I expose you by speaking about it to the thought of the game. Perhaps sometime in the future you forget that I expressed a cautious perspective about the game, and all you remember is the name of the game. And so when you see the game, say on Steam or something, you go, oh, I've heard of that game. Can't remember what I've heard of that game, but it looks nice. I think I'd like to own it. And then if you're someone who has convictions about language, then you may make a bad purchase. So those are some of the things I've been grappling with. I think one of the things that I've realized, I took a break recently for the Thanksgiving holiday. I initially was just planning on doing the Christmas Eve break because I would, every so often, I just kind of feel overwhelmed by running the stream, especially setting up the stream. There's a lot to pull together on the day of the stream. I'm trying to find ways to make that easier for myself, but haven't quite gotten there yet. And sometimes when I'm setting up, it's like, I just don't want to do this. And so when I have that feeling, I go, okay, I've got to do this stream, but I'm going to be looking for an opportunity to take a break, make sure that I've got my head on straight. So what with the holidays coming, I thought, well, Christmas Eve is on a Friday. I'll go ahead and take a break for Christmas Eve, and that should do. But then I thought, well, no, if I keep having to muscle all the way through Christmas Eve, that doesn't seem like something good. I'm not sure that I would be great at streaming if I did it all that time. So I'll take Thanksgiving break off too. So I took the Friday after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, off. And when I take a break, because I feel overwhelmed, I like to spend some of that time thinking about what can I remove from the stream. Because if I'm overwhelmed, maybe there's something I've accepted as a burden on the stream that I just am not strong enough or skilled enough to bear yet. So I thought about it and I thought, well, when I play the games are fun. But when I play the games, you saw the way it was with Subnautica. I'm going through the game. I can barely hold my thoughts together because I got to deal with the stalker that's attacking me or the Reaper that's off in the distance. But those are some powerful creatures. I've been a long time since I got close enough to one to be attacked, but I don't know how quickly they swim when they want to. I've heard that in Subnautica, the game is great at giving you audio of your enemies, so you know the enemies are around someplace, but it's also great at arranging the audio so you can never tell how far away the enemy is. So it's easy for enemies, even noisy enemies, to sneak up on you. So that was my worry during the game today. So I've got all these game thoughts that I'm juggling, and I can't seem to get a solid, real thought out. I can communicate better now that I'm not playing the game, and I can just talk directly to you. I can make eye contact. I can be more engaged in this discussion. So it's not enjoyable for me to play games if I'm trying to say something meaningful. If I'm not saying something meaningful, then I don't feel like the time spent is worth it. I mean, you can go and watch someone else play Subnautica, right? This channel, I want to talk about the truth. So what am I doing playing a game and just talking about what I'm playing in game? Because you can see what I'm playing in game. Maybe you don't know exactly my thoughts if I don't say them. But what bearing on truth do those thoughts have? Not very much usually. So, and any thoughts that I do have on truth, or on how I'd like to talk about truth, get scattered and jumbled during the progress of the game. So there's a sense in which the gameplay, I think, really does work against what the mission of this channel is, which is to talk about truth, to see between our different versions of the truth, whether one of us has the truth or whether neither of us has the truth, if we can get any closer to the truth by comparing those versions. I feel like the gameplay doesn't do that. I've had a lot of people like, say, church family, friends, people who love me and who share my worldview, say that they think the games are distracting. And I see the sense in that. That makes sense to me. I initially started playing the games because I thought that it would be a bear for me as a new streamer to sit and talk to a camera. Maybe it would be a bear for you to watch. Maybe you'd like the overly saturated, colorful display of the game to keep you interested. And I've definitely seen channels manage that very well. I just don't find it satisfying for me anymore, and I do agree that it doesn't line up perfectly with the channel. On the other hand, I do want to be able to engage with the concepts that are embedded in the story of the game. My question is, how do I do that without promoting the language, the bad language that might be in the game, or without promoting a bad game, without promoting a developer who, in one case, made a good game, but in general makes bad games, that kind of thing. So those are the things that I'm juggling. So it feels good to be able to spit that out, to get that on film, per se. If you have any thoughts or comments, if you have any insights, I would love to see those, probably in the comments, since we're wrapping up the stream here. So if you see this and think you have something to contribute, think you might have some great advice for me, I'm open to it. Go ahead and comment about it. I'm thinking it might be a good idea for me to get into the habit of saying when I stream as I get to the end of the stream. So normally my streams are Friday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern US. I don't know if there's any other country that claims Eastern time, but I'm in the US, and this is Eastern time for me right now. Next week, taking off for Christmas Eve, and back on track the week following. So you should be seeing another stream from me if you're keeping an eye open on New Year's Eve. God bless you, and play kind.